What's the deal on meditating for transcendence? Is it harmful to you? Is it beneficial? Do you lose your sense of self forever? How is it different from mindful meditation? We'll discuss all this and more in today's episode of Balanced Living. Hi everyone, welcome to Balanced Living, where we explore how to be balanced and grounded in a down-to-earth way. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, we've been talking about the 4 types of meditation and the benefits of including them all in our lives as part of a soul diet. We've already discussed mindful meditation, reflective meditation, and loving kindness meditation. And today's meditation that we'll be discussing is a meditation for transcendence. And just for clarity's sake, I'm going to call it transcendent meditation. Transcendent meditation is one of the most misunderstood practices. It's also earned its place as being very mystical, and therefore it is sometimes even feared. So what makes it different than other types of meditation? Well, the main difference is that the others focus on being aware of something. We're aware of our surroundings, of our state of being, we're reflecting on our thoughts. But with transcendent meditation, our purpose is to go beyond our level of awareness. It's a state of deep inner silence that takes us above our typical bodily and mental senses. So this means that we reach a point where we're not seeing, we're not hearing, we're not tasting, we're not feeling, we're not utilizing our normal senses. So why would we want to do something like this? To explore that, let's take a look at our nervous system. As most of you are aware, we're living in a stress-induced world with very little outlet for the stress. When we're talking 30 plus years ago, people played outside, they ate fewer processed food, and they were a lot more mobile. They spent a lot more time connecting physically around each other, and they didn't have the screens in their face, so they didn't have constant blue light in their face affecting their bodies. So our bodies back then had many more outlets for stress, and the way our society is working now, it really doesn't. And because of this, many of us are in a hurried state of being, desperately trying to get somewhere. And with all these time-saving devices we have as a whole and as a culture, we really have a lot less time. And this might be because so many of us are addicted to instant gratification and flooding our senses with abnormally high amounts of dopamine through things like social media and video games and basically things with screens. And that's not to say that screens are bad or anything. As with most things, it's fine in moderation. Even meditation and fasting and healthy, clean eating, even that can be harmful if we're doing it in excess and we're becoming obsessed with it. So as a whole, many of us are in a nonstop state of trying to find the next stimulant. So anxiety comes with that, and it's a lot higher in this day and age, especially since we're not releasing it. When we're feeling stressed or anxious, our body goes into flight or fight mode. And in an attempt to help you fight off whatever has made you anxious, your brain floods your central nervous system with lots of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol and a few others. In prehistoric times, these states were only meant to be for an actual physical threat. But our bodies are seeing our modern day stresses as a threat and triggering this response for longer periods of time. It turns off our creative centers because being creative when there's a hungry lion around wouldn't have benefited us. And so we survive a lot better if we react first in a situation and then think later after we're in a safe place. And the constant state of stress can have deteriorating effects on the body and especially our heart. Being in a constant flight or fight also makes it hard to be compassionate or empathetic. It's because when we're in flight or fight, we have very little access to the prefrontal cortex where our logic and memories are stored. Now, the prefrontal cortex is the newest addition to the human brain, and so the flight or fight is a lot older. So when we feel threatened, the stress chemicals get secreted by the brain, and it happens even if it's just your significant other saying something that you took as a put down, and our bodies can react as if our lives are actually being threatened. You've experienced something like this if you've ever argued with your partner, and you might have noticed that in that moment you can't even think of a single thing you like about them. Your memories of how great they were are just kind of gone, and you might even think something like, I don't even know why I'm with you anymore, and what made me want to be with you. In those moments, we can't think of the nice things they've done for us or how our words will affect them later. And that's because in flight or fight, all we see is the now. We're stuck in the stress of the present until the situation is dissolved. And all that seems to matter is what is currently going on. And we are getting clarity on our current threat, and our sound becomes more vivid, and everything just becomes more in the present. Suddenly, none of the positive things our partner has done for us seem to matter. And it's just very difficult to empathize or see their point of view when we're in flight or fight. So when we're stressed or angry or scared, we might actually just be feeling hatred towards them, or we might just be scared of them. Only when we're safe and our nervous system is calm can we have access to those feelings, those wonderful feelings about them again, and thinking about how our words can affect them again. But the problem is, when do we get to this place of safety in our modern days? So as you can tell, I like talking about flight or fight, and I have so many things I can go into. So I just want to say one more little thing that I find really interesting. So let's look at a bald eagle, for instance. They are predators. And so when they're going after their prey, their wings are expanded because they don't have a fear in the world. Their eyes are focused and they're breathing really calm. But a rodent that might be running from them, let's say it's a squirrel, they're in flight or fight. And so they're going to have a different experience. Their eyes are going to be moving around really quickly, and they're going to be hiding and moving from one place to the other instead of being really expanded. And their breathing is going to be super shallow and super fast. And when we're calm, we're like the bald eagle. Slower heart rate, slower breath, more creativity, much more expanded and exposed. When we are stressed, we're more like the rodent, hiding and trying to stay away from everyone and putting off this repellent energy. What's really interesting is that as humans, we can detect when a person is calm and when a person is in flight or fight or stress. When a person we don't know is really calm, we're more likely to want to be around them because we know that if they're calm, they're probably safe and the area they're in is safe, so we're going to naturally feel more safe. But if we see someone who's really stressed out or really angry and they're just kind of barking and they're like this, we're more likely to avoid that person because deep down they might be in a sense of danger, and we don't want to put ourselves in a place of danger. So when we're running on adrenaline all the time, when we're running on these stress hormones, it's a lot harder to sleep, it's a lot harder to think straight, and it's a lot harder to be efficient. It's like we're constantly in a state of danger without ever getting to that safe place for our nervous systems to relax. And transcendent meditation can solve this issue, and it does it by helping calm our nervous system. Transcendent meditation helps by changing brain waves to release emotional tension. It slows down the nervous system and it allows the muscles to relax. And it lets go of a lot of excess energy from the day, especially stress hormone energy or the energy of being over enthusiastic. And it triggers a relaxation response that naturally and quickly reduces stress in the body. It does it really, really quickly and really effectively. I came across a published analysis of 42 scientific studies on the effect of transcendental meditation over self-actualization. So transcendental meditation is a type of transcendent meditation, and in that one they're using mantras. And also self-actualization is the fulfillment of our life's calling, or rather using our talents to the highest and being successful in life. The conclusion was that participants who use transcendental meditation were approximately 3 times more likely to self-actualize, and that means reach their highest potential in life, than other forms of relaxation. And I'm not surprised, because we have so much more energy and so much more creativity and a strong sense of being bigger than who we are when we're doing transcendent exercises. This is one of the reasons that transcendent meditation is often associated with spirituality. I personally practice transcendent meditation from indigenous backgrounds, from Taoist backgrounds, from Buddhist backgrounds, Benedictine backgrounds, and there's many in yoga backgrounds. And so this means to say most of the love-based spiritual and religious backgrounds find value in this practice. And in a Benedictine monastery I once visited, the monks call this practice a daily practice of the art of dying. And that is to say that they practice letting go of their identities and becoming one with God, so that they're not just limited to the stress of this reality. So others might call this experience experiencing nirvana. They might call it enlightenment. They might call it breaking ego, or they might call it pure consciousness. And I often just call it transcendence. And it's in these states that people typically report feelings of awe. They might experience time stopping and a sense of unity with other people, a deep connection as being one with nature, God, or the universe. Some people get to this stage quickly, and others might have to take some years to get used to it. A lot depends on how relaxed you're able to get. I hear a lot of people tell me, oh, I can't meditate because I can't turn off my thoughts. But the fact of the matter is, we don't turn off our thoughts. It doesn't happen in that way. In this meditation, the thoughts turn off gradually as a natural reaction to the state of relaxation you're in. First, the body must relax and preferably not move at all, because when you're moving, that brings you back to your senses and you're being aware of the things around you. So it's easier to do this meditation in a lying down position on your back so that you're less likely to move or to shift. So it's good to just get into a position where you're not going to have to shift. Now, there are some like transcendental meditation where you are sitting, and that's totally fine. I find it to be a lot easier when you're lying down. Once relaxed, your breathing naturally calms. It gets slower, it gets deeper and more rhythmic. And once that happens, and only once that happens, does your thoughts begin to naturally slow down. It usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes to get to that point, and that's for an experienced meditator. So if you're thinking that you can't meditate because your thoughts are racing after 5 minutes, I hope it makes you feel better now to understand that it simply means your body needs a little bit more time to relax. After your breathing slows down, eventually you start to forget who you are, or rather, your awareness of your body and who you are begins to dissipate, and you don't even sense your body anymore. I always describe it as a sense of numbing in the body. You might feel it starting to get a little numb and tingly at first, but it's not something scary. It actually feels really pleasant and relaxing. Now, once your body has been numb for a period of time, you might experience several things. First might be expansion, where there's a feeling of going past the body and into the seemingly empty space around your room. Sometimes it might even feel like you're filling the entire room. Oftentimes, we might even go into a hypnagogic state, and that's the state in between being asleep and awake. And it's in this state that we have heightened creativity. You very might well fall asleep if you have been pushing yourself a lot in that day, or if you're the kind of person that still pushes yourself a lot every day and you don't really make that much time to relax and to play or to balance yourself. And I always say falling asleep is your body's way of saying that it was pushed too much and that it needs rest, and it's a really good thing. Give it that rest. And if you happen to do this meditation regularly, or you're doing it in a calm state, then it's more likely that you will stay awake and aware for the entire thing. Regardless of whether or not you fall asleep, you will usually feel like you've taken a long nap when you're done. I often feel like I've rested for 4 to 8 hours after just a 30-minute transcendent meditation. And that's why I usually don't do them at night, because I don't want to stay up all night long with all that energy. But there are some who purposely do them at night after a stressful day, knowing that the meditation is going to relax them enough to fall asleep during the meditation. So that's a personal preference depending on your situation. So there are some things about this meditation that makes people nervous. So I'm going to just go over some of the main points and my point of view on them. When you're doing this, your senses can become much more heightened and sounds can become warped as you are starting to transcend. My comment to this is, if you are extremely relaxed, it really shouldn't take you out of it, and you should be able to hear it and still feel really relaxed. And usually things like that don't happen until you've done this type of meditation for quite a bit of time and you're a little bit more experienced. Some people are afraid of killing the ego and losing themselves forever, and then there are some people who want to kill the ego and lose themselves forever. And I just wanted to say there is no losing yourself forever. It just does not happen. What happens is you might transcend, you might experience nirvana, this wonderfulness and this sense of being all with one, but the moment you come back to this state of being, ego comes back. You cannot be alive, you cannot have a body without ego. The moment you say I, and you have a sense of self, you have a sense of being any kind of separation from anything else or another group or another people, you are in ego again. And it's just a part of this life experience. So we can experience temporary states of not having ego, which is really pleasant and nice. Our sense of self might become loosened and we might become more generous, but we do come back. Some people are afraid of the hypnagogic state because sometimes it produces hallucinations, and sometimes you might even experience sleep paralysis if you fall asleep. And my thing to this is, again, unless you're more prone to these kind of things, or unless you've been doing this kind of meditation for 5 to 10 years, you are very unlikely to have this experience. And by the time you have done this meditation for 5 to 10 years, this kind of experience probably wouldn't scare you. It probably would be something you might welcome. And there's a lot of ways to experience sleep paralysis without being afraid of it. But as I said, it's very unlikely if you're doing it. You're going to get so many benefits for so many years before you even have that experience, if you have that experience. So many report surrendering and losing themselves and that being scary, or having an out-of-body experience being scary. And again, that's something that is most likely not going to happen unless you've been doing this for 5 to 10 years, or you're more prone to those kind of things. And as I said before, you're probably going to welcome it in those times. Some people are a little nervous about where these insights come from. We get seemingly really prophetic insights and they wonder, is it safe? And where is it coming from? Is it coming from a demon? So my answer to that is, look at the spiritual disciplines and backgrounds that are doing this kind of meditation. We have Benedictine, which is a Christian background. We have Buddhism and Taoism. We have Hinduism. We have a lot of yogis. Transcendental meditation itself, that is a yoga practice. Yoga Nidra is a type of transcendent meditation, and that's a yoga practice as well. So if all these love-based spiritual disciplines are doing it, there must be a really good reason that they're doing it. And I would take the wisdom of the whole and take that into consideration. Now, if you are afraid of something, if you're really, really afraid, then I would never recommend doing something unless it feels really good and valuable to you. You don't want to do something like this and just be afraid. You might actually cause your stress hormones to go up, but it is more than likely that it's going to actually relax you. So I actually do this type of meditation 2 to 4 times a day, and that's because I am working with a lot of people who are drained. I am doing a lot of energy type techniques, and so I feel often that I have to release a lot of excess energy from the day, and it just makes me feel on top of the world, and it helps me to have a clear mind. It helps me to have wonderful ideas of what to do next. Now you might be asking, how often should we be doing this kind of meditation? That really depends on your individual situation. If you're someone who's stressed often and you're running from one place to another and it's really hard for you to sit down and relax, it's a good idea to do this at least once a day. If you're someone that's working with a lot of draining people and you're really tired most of the day, doing it a little bit more is even better. But when it comes to incorporating all of the 4 meditation types, then it's really good to make a routine and to see what it is that you're needing the most. So if you're someone that's really unhappy and you're wanting to just feel happier, then it's a good idea to do the loving kindness meditation a little bit more, so maybe once a day. If you're someone that's a high heart rate and you're just wanting to reduce your stress in life, then doing the mindful or transcendent a little bit more often is really good. If you're someone that is very timid and you want to get along better with people, and maybe you're angry with the world and you're angry with people, then the reflection exercise and the loving kindness, doing those a little bit more. My thing is having it to be a routine, so rotating maybe 2 a week so that you are getting all 4 within the month. That will make it so you're getting the variety and the different vitamins that the 4 of these can actually contribute to your soul diet. So I hope that makes sense to you. Now, if you are interested in doing any kind of transcendent meditations, I will have a transcendence meditation section in my guided meditations. You can look at the video description to see the links, or you can go to my guided meditation section and you can follow along and have fun doing these kind of meditations. I will have guided meditations for each type, and so you'll have an opportunity to practice transcendent meditation if that's what you're wanting to do. I hope you enjoyed learning about the 4 meditation types. It will be helpful to you if you are debating about taking on meditation as a practice. Until next time, may you be well and be mindful.